On today's show, Venom licks up the SWAT team, Hellboy gets its release date pushed to April, and local comedian injures himself trying to mimic the training moves he saw in the Creed 2 trailer. Movie Talk starts right now. I want to do that push-up with the rope thing that Drago's kid is doing.
I kind of want to see it happen.
Oh, it's not going to end well. Hopefully this show does. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Collider Movie Talk. My name is Mark Ellis. That is Perri Nemiroff. And over there is Managing Director of Cinema Blend, Sean O'Connell, making his debut on Movie Talk.
Guys,
thank you so much.
Oh, my gosh, it's a pleasure to be here. I've been watching from back home, and I'm thrilled to be here.
And I hear, word has it, that this is not the only show that you watch and play along with. You seem to have a pretty good Schmoedown acumen.
You know, I say that I would do really well on the Schmoedown, and I'm sure a lot of people who watch from back home say that also. I'm answering all the questions, but once you're in the chair, it's got to be a completely different situation. So one day I want a shot. Mark, give me a shot, and we'll see how we do.
We will get you out here. We will put you up against. You know who we could put him up against is Sean O'Connell, the MMA fighter, who a lot of people thought that's who was going to be on the show today.
Right.
So
yeah.
I don't want to say you're disappointing.
A lot of people.
But I think you know more about film maybe than the other Mr. O'Connell.
He should come here and do Creed. Actually, that's the reason why my Twitter is Sean_O'Connell, because that guy beat me to it. And for a while, if you search Sean O'Connell on Google, I would show up. And then that guy totally ruined it because his weigh-ins are apparently extremely entertaining.
Yeah, it tends to happen with professional athletes. Mark Ellis, the professional baseball player, has been retired for 2 years, and he still is just like, we're 1A and 1B now on Google. But I'll get there one day.
I just have Nemiroff vodka, and I'm fine with that.
Yeah, Perri's pretty sick.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Perri's doing pretty well. You and I are both going to be at New York Comedy. Well, I'm going to be at New York Comedy Club. We're both going to be at New York Comic Con next weekend. Are you going to be there covering a whole lot of panels and stuff like that, doing a lot of work, maybe hitting the meatball shop?
The flights are booked, top priority. You know, you got the panels, but meatball shopping. I hear someone is having a show that I should attend, so maybe I'll catch that also.
Yeah, more on that later in the show. You don't want to hear about that up top. Up top, you want to know the latest and greatest in the world of movies, and that's what we're here to do. And Hellboy is what we kick off with today, because this news just dropped a couple hours ago, is that the Hellboy release with David Harbour stepping in for Ron Perlman in the role of Hellboy. Obviously, we've had two Hellboy movies that were helmed by Guillermo del Toro. This one in a different vein. It's a reboot of sorts. You're not going to see it as fast as we thought we would. We thought we were going to get this movie as early as January, and now it has been pushed back to April. Perri, you texted this to me. I said, we got to get the kids out there, and we got to let them know that Hellboy is going to be a little later than we thought it would. What are the reasons that Hellboy's delayed? Is it time to hit the panic button?
I think it's because I just booked the New York Comic Con trip, and I know that Hellboy has a panel there. So when I first heard this news, I'm like, oh no, my hopes to get something beyond, because I'm assuming they're going to drop the first trailer, and then immediately after that trailer will probably go online. But I want to see some footage, and the fact that it had that January release date, I was like, okay, there's a good chance I'm going to get some footage. Then when I saw the date was pushed back, I'm like, uh-oh, they're not ready. I'm not going to get any footage. But then when you look at that April date, that to me is just one big fat show of confidence in their movie, especially when you look at what it's up against. It's not like that's a completely empty weekend, because we know that January has that whole stigma of being a dumping ground. Right. And I think they kind of want to move away from that. I think by picking that April release date, they're saying we got something here and we can make even more money with it.
Well, it's amazing how we can, in our own heads, we can kind of twist news about a delayed film to suit whether we're confident or whether we want to see the movie or not, Sean. And what I mean by that is that if you hear a movie gets delayed a few months, you could say, oh no, they got to do edits, they got to do massive reshoots. With this situation in particular, I tend to agree with Perri for this reason, is that if you have a movie coming out in January, it might be less because you need to reshoot something or edit, and it might be more because you think that you have something special here, and the promotional rollout that you could have coming into April gives you a little bit more of a runway than it would getting out in January. Is that how you see this, or is there something that is giving you more hesitation?
I see both sides of it. There's no bad time to open a movie anymore. You can open a blockbuster in any month now. That window is basically changed. When I look at this April date, while I would initially agree with Perri and say that that's a better vote of confidence that the studio thinks they have something, is it now sandwiched between Captain Marvel and Shazam? Which then builds in a little bit of an excuse of if it underperforms, they can say, look what we went up against here, because I just don't know what the demand for a new Hellboy is. The first two movies, while they are respected by film fans, didn't necessarily set the world on fire to the point that Guillermo couldn't even finish his trilogy that he necessarily wanted to do. There's been no marketing for this film yet, which made me think that the January release date was in question anyway. But we have a number of big films that don't have any trailers out yet. Avengers 4 hasn't shown anything. X-Men at this moment right now hasn't shown anything, but we think that's about to change. So when we didn't see a Hellboy trailer, I was like, that's really strange. They should start ramping up promotion for this soon. So that shift back leads me to believe they need some post-production time, although they've been working on this for a really long time. They shot it almost a year and a half ago. And that maybe they just think that that's a better window for where to open it. But it's, if you look at the slate from January to December in 2019, it's going to be competitive almost any month that you try to come out. There's just too many big titles out there.
Yeah, there's no great landing spot even when you go to January in 2019. And so, like Sean said, I mean, you're opening in between Captain Marvel and Shazam. You know Captain Marvel is going to crush Shazam. You would assume it's going to have a lot of marketing, if nothing else, behind it. So with Hellboy, one of the reasons why I think they wanted to get a Hellboy out there, but they wanted to go away from the Guillermo del Toro version of it, is so they could save a lot of money making the movie, because this is going to be a much cheaper endeavor. So, Perri, are you expecting that we're going to see stuff in New York? Has there been any movement on whether there is a panel, any announcements in that arena?
The panel is definitely on. It's on the schedule. As far as what we're going to see, I mean, your guess is as good as mine, but my educated guess would say a teaser trailer at least, is a guarantee. But, when you're attending New York Comic-Con, you got to keep your hopes up for that extra little bit of exclusive material. And that's why I have my fingers crossed for an actual clip from the movie, too. Because as cool as it is, especially with something like Hellboy, we want to see the new tone, the new style, the new look, David Harbour's take on this character. So a teaser trailer is going to show us that. But I'm a firm believer that you don't really know what you're going to get in a movie until you get to just live in a scene for, maybe just 30 seconds. But when you actually get to see a movie, when you actually get to see a clip from a movie as it's going to be pieced out in the movie itself, I think that's a better sign of what we're going to get in the final product.
Yeah. If they come to New York Comic Con without footage, then that becomes the story, right? Why didn't they bring more to show?
Yeah, that becomes the panic all of a sudden. I mean, a movie's opening near Captain Marvel. You either say, wow, they really believe in their product, or, oh, they're resigned to their own fate. I'm going with the former, partially just because I want to see what this Hellboy has to bring. Maybe Perri and I get to check it out next week at New York Comic-Con. Keep our fingers crossed for that one. Well, a movie that we know when it's opening, we just have no idea how it's going to open or if the movie's going to be even good, is Venom. But I will say that in a new clip that was released this morning online, we get to see Venom tangle with some SWAT team members who probably did not know what they were in for. And this is one of these situations where you see a few trailers for a movie and you decide whether you want to pay the money to see it in a theater. Sometimes they release full clips like this, and the clips usually don't do much for me. I've already made my decision based on the trailers I've seen. In this instance, where the trailers haven't wowed me as much as I thought they would, Sean, I got to tell you, I saw this clip. I was pretty impressed.
Yeah, Ellis, I'm with you. Because I think that the Venom character, the look of him, needs as much post-production as possible. So anything they show you early, it's going to look rough. And now we're starting to see him in full action. And I'm with you. The trailers have been fine, not really blowing me away. This is the first clip that I saw from this movie, and clearly I'm wearing my black suit Spider-Man shirt. I'm in the tank for that universe. I'm really curious how Venom is going to exist without Spider-Man. But that clip was the first time where I was like, oh, maybe this is actually going to be something. Like maybe this could be, a one-off sort of Venom story that's going to probably have a few issues for big-time fans who want to see how it fits into the Spider-Man universe, because maybe it doesn't. But maybe they nailed the character. I still believe in Tom Hardy. And so as long as the CGI brings this Venom character to life, I'm starting to get pretty intrigued.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to talk with you about it in depth prior to this conversation we're having right now. So as a Venom fan, when it was announced, when you had Tom Hardy announced as the lead, when you heard that Spider-Man probably not going to be appearing in this, it's going to be its own standalone thing. Yeah. It's rated PG-13. Has it been a roller coaster ride of emotions for you rooting for this movie, or have you just been, okay, let's all relax and wait till we see the actual film?
Well, to answer that, it's you get into so many studio politics of like, we know why we can't have Spider-Man in it. But why? How do you have a Venom movie that doesn't involve Spider-Man? It's like, It would be like saying, what if you had a Joker movie that didn't have Batman? And now we're getting a Joker movie that probably won't have Batman. So we're in the end of days, basically, right now. I want the Venom movie to work because I really do think that if they tease Cletus Cassidy becoming Carnage, which I believe Woody Harrelson is going to play, we don't have that confirmed, that they can establish that universe and that later, when Marvel and Sony can figure out how to play again, Tom Holland can come back over and then you can have Spider-Man in this universe. But it's such a weird, uncharted territory of characters that are supposed to be in their own universe and not able to play in the same sandbox, and it's strange. So now I've dialed back my expectations. I just want it to work as its own little standalone movie, which is, I guess, crazy to ask. Like, can you just be a movie that works from start to finish?
Yeah, right. I mean, you have all these high expectations, Perri, about cinematic universes and what could cross over into what. Then at the end of the day, you just want a good movie. So for people that have their expectations already set for Venom, who is this clip for? Is this clip more for people who already are sold on the movie, or is this a better clip to show people who are a little hesitant to put their money into it?
Can it be for everyone? I'm actually kind of high on what we've seen so far. I think I have liked it more than most. And the more people I talk about it with, the more I think I realize that the fact that I have no attachment to the source material has just left me maybe a little more open to everything that we got in the trailers. And I don't know, I just haven't been so hard on it. And seeing this new clip kind of just adds to that pile of promo material that I really like. The effects looked pretty impressive. And the other thing that really caught my eye on this, where it makes me think that the effects are going to look good throughout, is the fact that it's a wild and crazy action scene where you're not like boom, 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 cutting so you can't see anything. The camera actually sits on some of these effects and some of the action. And that to me suggests that, hey, maybe the action scenes were actually directed pretty well and that it was meant to have you kind of sit and appreciate every single moment, because that is what I appreciated here. It's the Venom quip, the Venom, just how he's able to absorb certain things and what happens to him when he takes on firepower. Even that thing where you get the Willem scream and the guy is just falling. The fact that you can actually sit and watch that all in one shot and you're not quickly thrown into something else that's crazy, I think that kind of bodes well for the entire film.
What's going to be a good opening weekend number for this movie domestically? What do you think that Sony is hoping to hit? They're well aware that most of the populace out there is aware that Spider-Man's not in this movie. It's going to be a smaller take, so we're not expecting, $100 million or it's a total bust situation. What could this movie pull in, Sean? What are you thinking?
I'm in the 35 to 40 range, and if they hit that, I think they should be overjoyed. They're opening opposite A Star Is Born, which is clearly not the same audience. But I think that the word on Venom leading into this has been, prove it to me. The fans are folding their arms and saying, let's see how good you are. I think if they can get in that range, that's a win. I think if they exceed that, it's tremendous. If word of mouth, if we see it and it's good and word of mouth powers it to 50, forget it. That's great. I think they would take that all day.
Yeah, I think they would be jumping for joy right now with 50. Perri, I tend to agree with Sean there. I think anything above 30 is going to be considered a W. It's unfair to compare these movies because they're not in the same universe, but look at the Predator receipts, look at Alien Covenant receipts. If it can top those movies opening weekend, I think you really got something.
I think so. I think that range would probably be the win. I'm actually going a little higher, though. I do have a feeling it's going to come close to 50. Maybe the high 40s.
I thought it was tracking in the 60s, which is crazy.
I wanted to say the same thing, but then I couldn't remember if I was thinking about Venom or Halloween, because I know Halloween is also tracking around 60 right now. But with Venom, I have been looking at some of the pre-sales just because I look at sales every single day for every single weekend, and it's just, I see obviously the new releases this week, and they're pretty high up on the charts, but Venom is right there in the mix with them, and if the pre-sales are that strong this far out, I do think that it's going to wind up having a pretty successful opening weekend, and good for it that the big other competition there is A Star Is Born, because those two audiences likely won't eat into each other too much.
Right.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens October 5th when Venom comes out, and I apologize to the movie ahead of time. I'm taking away a little bit of your box office because probably some people would go see Venom. They might go to New York Comedy Club instead. That's the only time you can see me is 8 p.m. It's one show only next weekend in New York City. You can go see Venom anytime. You can come check me out 8 p.m. A lot of special guests popping on that show as well. Looking forward to seeing all your smiling faces in New York City next week. You can get tickets at markellislive.com and use the promo code Schmoes. All right, without further ado, I don't know what you did when you woke up this morning, but I woke up and immediately watched the trailer 38 times in a row. And yes, it was for Creed 2. So excited to see Adonis Creed, Michael B. Jordan's character, back in action and training for the fight of his life. Looks like he's got a new family. Looks like he's got a big shiny belt. I don't know if you win boxing matches or Schmoedowns to get said belt, but he managed to accomplish it. He's still got Rocky in his corner, but he's going up against Ivan Drago's kid. That's right, Ivan Drago from Rocky 4. Dolph Lundgren himself back in the role of Ivan, and you see him a little bit in this trailer. So I loved everything I saw in this trailer, as you might suspect I would. I have hesitations, I have fears, but they're all character-based and nothing about the quality of the movie. Everything I saw in this, Perri, up to and including the training sequences where I can do the pull-ups that Ivan's kid is doing. I can't. The push-up and the pulling the rope, like you push off the ground and then you yank a rope up on top of it. That looks like something that is just never going to be within my athletic wheelhouse. You're a CrossFit trainer. You do that kind of stuff, or do you just sit back and watch this trailer again?
That doesn't mean I can do a single pull-up. It doesn't matter how many years I've worked at it. I can't do a pull-up for the life of me. I can do the arm hang for a really long time, but when it comes to a pull-up, it just doesn't seem like it's ever even going to be an option.
That's why we invited John Roca to do the Tough Mudder with us, so we can use him as a boost and we can get over some of these higher ups.
I figured he's going to push me over all the walls. Whether the movie winds up being this great or not, this is a very, very well cut trailer. Just when you have cuts that are to the beat of the music like that, especially when you're cutting a trailer for a sports movie and a sports movie with training montages, when they have that kind of feeling that you want to turn the thing off and then go and work out, job well done. And that's what happens here. I saw a couple complaints online. Oh, you've just spoiled the whole movie. I mean, what did you expect? He was going to train and they were going to fight. That's exactly what it is. And that's exactly what the trailer shows. But there's like a nice little touching story in there too. The line that I noted right at the beginning, if we don't do what we love, then we wouldn't exist. And that's something that I apply here every single day. I feel like if it wasn't for this place, I wouldn't exist. But it's interesting to hear a line like that and then to see things kind of change when he comes to realize at the end, is it really worth it? I think that's a really interesting emotional battle that I'm looking forward to seeing, in addition to just all the kick-ass fights we're no doubt getting.
Yeah, Sean, I know that you weren't as crazy about Creed as I was the first movie, right. But when you see this trailer, do you get the emotional notes? Do you see a different sort of movie than what Creed was, expounding upon that material? Or do you just see this as basically another sequel and another Rocky movie?
I see it as another sequel and another Rocky movie, and I don't want to be that wet blanket. But when I saw the first Creed, I thought it was fine, but it just struck me as another chapter in this ongoing saga, and the way that it leaned heavily into Rocky and used Stallone, which I thought was appropriate, but these movies have not been able to break out and be their own thing in my mind, and they're going even harder into it by becoming essentially a sequel to Rocky 4 by bringing back Dolph Lundgren and to make it a Drago versus Creed type story, which that's where it has to go. But I didn't buy into these movies being this fresh reinvention of the formula, because to me it just seemed to be another boxing movie, to the point where I totally understand what people are saying, that the trailer, they're like, well, I just watched the whole movie, and all that's left is, are they going to pull a bait and switch where he loses to Drago, or is he going to win? But even that's a Rocky 1 versus Rocky 2 type conversation. So it seems like we're just going, like it's the same thing again, and it looks fine, and I think the people who like the first Creed are probably going to love this, but I'm still kind of on the fence.
So it's the same thing over and over again for you. You like it. It just feels like the same thing.
There's nothing bad about it necessarily, but it's not reinventing the wheel in any sort of way. A movie that's in this genre that I really loved was Warrior recently, and it had such a great relationship between the two brothers in that movie, not to get back to Tom Hardy, that it made me forget that it was a fighting movie, right? But with the first Creed, and probably with Creed 2, it feels like a boxing movie first, and the character stuff didn't connect to me.
Yeah, see, I mean, with Creed, I feel like I got a lot of Warrior notes there, because the great thing about Warrior, in addition to the fight scenes and the fact that it's these brothers struggling to climb this MMA mountain, it's also, you feel the family ties, not just between them, but with their father, with Nick Nolte too. Yeah. I felt a lot of that in Creed, that they're establishing new family parameters, and you see some of that in this trailer where it's Michael B. Jordan and Tessa Thompson. Their baby is there together. So I understand it's a little Rocky 2, but it could be Rocky 3 and Rocky 4 all lumped into one movie, Perry, because as we talked about on Collider Live this morning, Christian and I are not of the faith that Rocky's necessarily making it out of this movie alive, which to Sean's point means that would really propel the Creed franchise in a different direction. I think this is going to be a successful movie, so I think you're going to see more of these. And that when it was initially announced that Ivan Drago and his kid are going to be in Creed 2, even as a huge Rocky fan that I am, I had this slight hesitation. Where are we taking this? Are we just remaking Rocky movies now? I did not feel that with this trailer, and I want to know more. For anybody who says that they think they saw the whole movie, I didn't see a lot of the Drago motivation or what is motivating them. There's the one line with Stallone saying he grew up in a pit of hate. Yeah. Did he really? Or I want to know that side of it. I wonder if it's just going to be the same one-note villain that we got for the majority of Rocky IV. There's going to be more to this character. I have a sneaking suspicion we're going to get to see Dolph Lundgren exercise more acting chops than he did in Rocky IV.
That's exactly what I think the twist in a way. I don't know if you can call it a twist, but I think that's what the surprise element is going to be here. But, in bringing up something like A Star is Born, and also we have Halloween coming out, I don't know. I think even though I want to see all of these new movies reinvent the wheels, there's a reason why these movies were so popular to begin with. And I think we're seeing a lot of remakes, reboots, sequels that tap into that and rekindle that while also adding just enough to make it something new and fresh and worthy of having that story out there again. And, if Creed 2 does take that approach again, in addition to Creed, I think I'm going to be okay with that.
Are you really concerned that Ryan Coogler's not back? I'm a little concerned.
It's hard not to be concerned, especially when, we're talking about Ryan Coogler of all people, and I'm not entirely sure of what Stephen Cable Jr. is really capable of with this. At this point, all we have to work with is that trailer to see what his spin on it is going to be. And when Ryan Coogler, it's not even just about Creed anymore. It's also about him skyrocketing to a whole nother level of fame with Black Panther.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm going to want him back for this, but there are tons of talented directors out there. There is no reason to think that he can't continue to keep the bar that high.
Sure.
Yeah, and I think Coogler having some involvement with the project helps. Stallone writing the movie, too. I think that's another reason why you wonder, well, if Stallone had a hand in the script, is it going to feel too much like Rocky 3 or Rocky 4? Wouldn't be a problem for me. Might be a problem for some other people out there. I think that it just feels like this is coming together, and if you told me this is the circumstances we get, and then you show we're down a Coogler, we're going to have Stallone writing it, the Drago's going to be back in it, and then you show me these two trailers, I would say you have hit the highest bar for what this movie could be. So I'm even more excited about this, and I would consider this my most anticipated movie for the rest of the year. I just cannot wait to get into a theater to see this. It opens up on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. So you get your Wednesday, eat turkey Thursday, probably go back to the movie theater Friday if you're this guy. That's the Creed 2 trailer talk, and make sure you guys check out Collider Live for the additional Creed 2 discussion/gushing that we had this morning. Christian and I had pretty good back and forth on that as well. Well, we love having screenings around the Los Angeles area when we're able to provide them for fans. We have another one coming up. This one is going to be on October 2nd at 7:30 in the PM at ArcLight in Sherman Oaks. We've done screenings of the ArcLight in Hollywood. This one is at the Sherman Oaks location. Don't worry, there's a Chili's right down the street. It's going to be Collider partnering with ArcLight and Lionsgate for an early screening of I Still See You. And after the screening ends, hang out because our own Stephen Frosty Weintraub is going to be doing a Q&A with Bella Thorne, Richard Harmon, Sarah Thompson, and the director of the movie, Scott Speer. If you want to go and you're going to be in the Southern California area during that time, simply send us an email. Email the Collider mailbox at gmail.com, and the subject line, I want to see I Still See You before it's in theaters, ! I don't know if you got to get exact wording on that with the subject line. It's a lot to write into a subject line.
If you want to get the exact wording, there's an article on Collider.com. You can just copy and paste it. It's that simple.
like if you wrote I need to see I Still See, does that not count? It's a tough thing to say. It's a tough thing to type. But if you type it, you're going to get tickets to see a movie and then the Q&A afterwards. So they will be accepting the emails at thecollidermailbox@gmail.com until Saturday, September 29th. There you go, and enjoy the ArcLight at Sherman Oaks. It's a pretty good movie theater. Been there a couple times. I enjoy it. Not as often. I go to the one in Hollywood all the time. But I like that Sherman Oaks location,
I don't
too.
think I've ever been to that location.
In the actual complex, I believe there's a Cheesecake Factory, too.
Oh, wow. You're really selling the food around this place.
There you go.
I'm ready to go.
I mean, I'm not the best for the local cuisine in Los Angeles, but if you need to know where the Fuddruckers are, I'm your
All
man.
you need to know is there's a Wood Ranch right in Burbank.
There you go.
Have you been to Wood Ranch yet?
I have
since you've
not been to Wood Ranch, no.
All right, treat yourself. It's right across the street. You're going to have a good time.
Let's go.
And our next story involves a good time, hopefully, for the cast of Birds of Prey, which we have some announcements now. We've been talking about the short list and front runners and all this kind of things for a number of different roles in Birds of Prey, which, as we announced earlier this week, is set for release in February of 2020. And according to Variety, Journey Smollett-Bell has been cast as Black Canary, and Mary Elizabeth Winstead is on board as Huntress. There's multiple versions of both Black Canary and Huntress in the comics, but the description that Variety has for the characters in this particular movie is that the Birds of Prey version of Huntress is a former mafia princess who was devastated at a young age when her family was killed in a mob hit. And then Black Canary is a good-natured and idealistic street fighter, just like she is in the comic. Kathy Yan is set to direct the script from Christina Hodson, who's also working on Bumblebee. So there you go, Perry. We've been talking about this for a while now. We have our Huntress locked. We have our Black Canary locked, joining Margot Robbie and company on screen for Birds of Prey. Does this move the needle for you in any sense?
It moves the needle for me, and I knew it was going to move the needle for me because when we were discussing that short list, I thought, give me any name on that list and I will be happy. So I'm glad that that list proved to be accurate. Now we've got two super talented people on board. It's funny thinking about Journey Smollett-Bell, because like the first thing I ever knew her from was a Full House when she was really little. No,
she's on Full House.
Why is there no
Full
reaction
House?
to that? Yeah, she was Michelle's friend.
I never understood the craze or the rebirth of the craze for Full House. I thought it was a subpar sitcom every step of the way. Then they're like, oh, it's coming back on Netflix. And I was like, I really don't care.
So
I never thought Full House.
What sitcom in that period were you watching?
Saved by the Bell, dog.
All right. Well, I was watching Saved by the Bell also, but Full House was a big deal. And then I graduated to watching her in Friday Night Lights, and I thought she was great in that too. But Mary Elizabeth Winstead, I mean, I could sit here all day and name movies of hers. You could see Faults, 10 Cloverfield Lane, Scott Pilgrim. They're both great gets, and I think this movie is taking another giant leap forward.
And I thought she was really good in the Thing remake, and I thought she did all she could in Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. So these casting announcements do excite me as much as I might not be a fan of Full House. So Sean, before we get to Birds of Prey, your take on Full House. Is it something that you and your kids watch all the time? Is it a once in a special occasion thing?
Well, no. We watch Good Luck Charlie, which is like a Full House ripoff. It's like the next generation. Same concept, like a lot of people living underneath the same roof.
Is there a cool uncle?
Oh, yeah. There's definitely a cool uncle in it. But I'm with you with the Full House thing. I never really quite
I just
got
never
it.
got it.
No, I never really got it. I mean, those girls are cute, I guess.
That and Home Improvement are probably the two biggest hit sitcoms. I was just like, these shows are not good.
What about Family Matters?
I was totally on Family Matters.
Okay.
Yeah. And not just because I think that there's a direct connection between family members and Reginald Vell Johnson's character in that and his character in Die Hard. I think that there's a clear crossover there.
Yes.
I'm not saying Urkel had anything to do with the Gruber family, but you may want to investigate once he becomes Stefan Urkel. He's a little too cool for his own good. I digress. Birds of Prey. Yeah. You excited about this movie, Sean?
Oh, very. I'm very excited for this because I want stability in the DC universe, and I am fascinated by the business plans of Marvel and DC. And everybody says, oh, DC's in disarray. They have no clue what they're doing. But they now have 5 legit movies that are in some form of production that we can look forward to over the next couple of years. So when you give me a release date, when you give me a director, when you give me a cast like this, I can finally start getting excited, because the flip side of DC is we're just going to throw 20 titles against the wall and we'll see what's going to work. There's a Batgirl movie that Joss Whedon might do, or Ben Affleck's going to do another Batman movie, and poor Henry Cavill can't get another Superman movie. So it's stability, and I love that, because now we can actually start talking about a script and where this is going. And what I also love about it too is that it doesn't feel like it's overly connected to the existing properties prior to this. Wonder Woman set in 1984. Shazam seems like its own little origin story. This is going to be set in Gotham City. They can be their own little solo standalone things. The Todd Phillips, Joaquin Phoenix thing might be its own complete thing, not even connected at all. It feels like DC finally is not forcing the let's be Marvel, let's have everybody ready to crisscross. While I still hope to get to a Justice League movie that works somewhere down the line, they're taking their time and they're going after projects that probably need to be told and finding the right filmmakers to tell them and casting them the right way.
And from everything we've seen from Aquaman 2, it seems like they allowed James Wan to make his movie in the same way that Patty Jenkins was able to go off to Themyscira and make her movie movie and then
Totally.
set it in World War I, so you don't have to worry about interconnectivity. It's not saying it's not there. It's just saying we're not going to hit the audience over the head with this stuff. We're going to make our own movie. If they respond to it, we can incorporate it into something else. Not only do they have 5 movies that are lined up, like you said, in some sort of production right now, Aquaman being the first one open later on this year, there's been good vibes coming from this. Everybody in the studio is in love with what Matt Reeves is looking at doing with Batman. Is there any credibility we can put in those stories that we're seeing online that they're a fan of what Matt Reeves is looking to do? I feel like this is the right time, for once with DC, to get this news out there ahead of all these positive announcements that they're having with their movie. They're releasing Joker things that aren't going to tie into that Batman movie,
right,
but they're announcing other casting for other movies. And then you hear everybody's a fan of what Matt Reeves wants to do with Batman. This has to be good news, right, Perri?
I would like to think so. I mean, we've discussed this time and time again, though, until it's exactly what you just said, Sean. Until I have something concrete that I could start to wrap my brain around and really start to picture, I'm not going to get too crazy with any DC property or any big studio property for that matter, because we hear these announcements, we hear these rumors, we hear, oh, this is looking great, this is testing well, and then it blows up in your face. And I don't want that to happen, but right now, it does seem like they're kind of, getting their stuff together. And that's the nature of this business, too, especially when you're playing with big money like this, big money that does pave the way, whether they're connected or not, to some sort of film franchise or cinematic universe. When you're playing with that kind of money, you live and you learn. It is very, very rare to come out of the gate super hot and have everything fall into place perfectly. So good on them. You swung and you missed a couple of times. Mm-hmm. As long as you could right the ship and get it back together, fine by me.
Yeah, and there are a lot of projects that they actually could do that are set up to explore. You could do that Flash movie with Ezra Miller. You could do a Suicide Squad sequel if you wanted to and just correct some of the mistakes that you made in this one. The Green Lantern Corps is sitting there waiting for a good movie to be made around them. And then, like you said, if the Batman franchise gets going and Matt Reeves, what you hear is that he has a trilogy in mind, you're set for the next 10 years. And all of a sudden, all this talk about DC's in disarray goes away. So I'm really, really happy that they seem to be finding their feet.
And with all that, Henry Cavill buzz, he still has his Superman action figures.
And a Supergirl movie, too, that they're talking about.
We get a Supergirl movie, too?
Yeah.
I want to see a Cyborg movie. I thought Ray Fisher was great. And I might have liked Justice League more than most people. But regardless how you feel about that movie or any of these individual upcoming projects, I think one could agree that with all the things in the oven right now at DC, one could say it's a full house. All right, I'm sorry about that. We're going to save some time for your live Twitter questions at the end of this show. Go ahead and start tweeting us right now at Collider Video. Use the hashtag Collider Movie Talk and let us know if you have a better pun than that Full House one. What did you think of the sitcom Full House or anything else in the world of movies, television, or entertainment? We'll answer your questions. That's what we're here for on this beautiful Wednesday Hump Day. I said day, and Hump Day is a holiday. It's a weekly holiday. Death Day is now going to be more than just a one-off, and I'm talking, of course, about Happy Death Day, the surprise horror hit that came out last year. It's going to get a sequel in 2019. The release date is going to be February 14th, 2019. People are really, there's some sort of backlash against 50 Shades of Grey continuing to own Valentine's Day, because now we're releasing all kinds of movies that might have nothing to do with Valentine's Day. Happy Death Day. And I'm a fan of sequels when it comes to their title. I don't always need one. I could just take a Young Guns 2. I don't need a surname for every sequel, but I am a fan of things like The New Batch, Secret of the Ooze, Step Up to the Streets, and Happy Death Day is going to be a contender because the sequel, it's called Happy Death Day to You. Sean O'Connell.
Yes.
The first Happy Death Day came out, surprise hit. Second one, pretty cool sequel title.
It's a cool sequel title. Horror sequels worry me, obviously, because they're not all great. And unless you have a really good concept, I don't know. This one had a really great concept. It was very clever, perfectly executed. I'm totally blanking on the fact, and I don't want to even say it out loud because for spoiler reasons, but there was something that happened at the very end of this movie that almost teased what the sequel would be. Am I right about that? Almost? Because I just don't remember what it is. I remember enjoying this movie a lot. It was essentially Groundhog Day, like in a horror franchise. What I would love to see them do is to pick another movie, a completely random movie, and just wrap a horror concept around it. It doesn't, if it's the same, like I'm reliving the same day over and over again, you played that concept.
Oh, so you think maybe like a Liar Liar where you can't lie.
100%,
yeah.
right? But it's like
right.
killer, and you just keep killing people.
Okay.
I don't know. Like pick something totally random off the shelf.
I want to see a mashup of the horror genre and Liar Liar right now.
Or like a Full House horror, where like it's a full house of people
And they're all killers.
And they're all killers.
Yeah, I mean,
This all makes a lot of sense.
So
this is exciting.
I like the title, and I'm glad that this movie's going to get to continue, but I just don't know where they're going to go with it.
And it's going to continue sooner rather than later. I didn't realize that it's next year. They're already making the movie, and we got the February 14th of 2019. So that's going to be opening up, I believe, right after X-Men Dark Phoenix or against X-Men Dark Phoenix, which we hopefully will see a trailer for tonight, according to 20th Century Fox. This movie, Perri, do you agree with your colleague Sean that we need to take a different concept, or do you want to see the Groundhog Day'd yet again?
Well, is the different concept you're talking about when they mention the Back to the Future kind of stuff? That's the quote that's been circulating for a while now, and
I can get behind that.
It's not something that's been explained very clearly. So even though we have this quote where they say it's going to have a Back to the Future vibe, I mean, what does that really mean?
So do you think that maybe in the sequel she has to somehow go back into the events of the first movie?
That's what I was thinking, and then I started to think about it even more so when we got the release date announcement, because this first one was her birthday.
Sure.
So what if they just run with some sort of holiday theme, and this one has something to do with Valentine's Day,
Right.
and who knows, maybe it's going back in time, going into the future, something like that, where it's all connected, because the other part of the quote was that this other story picks up right where the first movie left off.
Okay.
So I'm not quite able to fit the pieces together in a way that makes me super confident that, oh, you have a worthy idea to continue this very specific idea of Groundhog's Day horror. So I'm not entirely sold, but the first one was so good, so snappy. She was so great in the role. Jessica Roth is definitely a leading lady in this kind of movie, and I'm excited to see her back, but this is a tough concept to pull off twice.
That earlier release date has me a little bit concerned. I mean, we started the show talking about Hellboy, and that's going to even open much later than this film, and that thing's been being worked on for a year and a half. So have they been filming this already? Did they just now greenlight it?
I'm pretty sure they've been filming this one, because I did see a lot of, the cast was very busy posting things on Instagram and Twitter
And
of
I'm
them
sure
on
in
set.
the moment when they were working on the first movie, they probably said, if we were to continue this story, this is where we would go with it.
And
I mean,
they knew
at
they
this
didn't have a
point, you're
high
stupid
bar to
if you don't
hit.
do that.
I mean, if you look at what a movie would need to make to warrant a sequel,
Sure.
with this model of horror film with Blumhouse involved, you don't have to make a killing
Right.
to do it. You have to have good box office receipts, have a solid opening weekend. That's certainly what Happy Death Day did, and I think that you're going to find the same thing, because February 14th, that's going to be a movie where a lot of people you're going to the movies to see something, and it's a fun horror movie to see with your loved one. Go see Happy Death Day to You with your sweetheart, or go see Dark Phoenix. See, it seems even weirder to sell people on seeing X-Men for Valentine's Day
Yeah, it really does.
than it does for Happy Death Day too. So
There's
I'm
a lot
still
of
not
things that seem
entirely-
weird about that one.
I'm
yeah,
not entirely convinced that movie exists.
that's a wait
Maybe
and
we'll
see.
find out tonight.
I guess so.
Well, before we move on to your live Twitter question, I'm going to remind you guys that tomorrow, a whole slew of cool stuff here on Collider Video. But this is not the only channel we have here in the office. We got Collider Games, Collider Quick, and Collider Sports. On Collider Video tomorrow, you're going to get an all-new episode of Jedi Council. That's going to be live in the morning. Christian has an exclusive interview on his one-on-one show with Richard Dreyfuss. Yes, Richard Dreyfuss stopped by. Sportsbook Thursday night. There's a new for your consideration with Best Director predictions.
Oh, yeah.
Perri, can you tell us who the front runner is? Do you not want to give it away yet?
I mean, I don't want to give anything away, but, we were talking about A Star is Born on this show right now, so I can tell you that was brought up quite a few times during the episode.
All right, fair enough. Take that for what you will, and you can see the full episode of For Your Consideration tomorrow right here on Collider Video. Move on to your live Twitter questions, and we have, as you might expect, some good horror-themed ones. First one comes from Josh Park, and he says, with new horror movies coming, will we get a new Friday the 13th? Reboot, retcon? It's a great question, and I still am dumbfounded as to how no studio has been able to get this reboot right yet. But I do think with the model that movies like Halloween are showing us, the trail is right there. It's been blazed. They dropped breadcrumbs. This is not rocket science. Reboot Friday the 13th. You can do this, and people are going to go see it opening weekend. Am I crazy to think that?
No, you're 100% right. But it's so interesting that we have two case studies within the past few weeks of The Predator failing to sort of bring a brand back, and then Halloween so successfully bringing a brand back. And I know not a lot of people had a chance to see the new Halloween yet. it crushes it. Like and when I come out of Halloween, I think like, oh, that's a great throwback to the time in horror when people went to go see those movies because they cheered on the villain more. Like you went to a Nightmare on Elm Street movie to see Freddy, and you went to the Friday the 13th movies for Jason. This is such a Michael Myers movie that you can easily have a Jason movie. And I'm with our Twitter person here. I don't know why they haven't done it. Like, why has this one been in limbo for as long as it has been? Because it's such an easy concept. And yet they just can't seem to get it off the ground.
I don't know who has the rights at this point, because I know there was a whole mix up with like the international rights and the domestic rights. I don't know what's going on with that. But, having seen Halloween now, my whole mentality is give it to Blumhouse.
Yeah.
They know what they're doing. I
Yeah.
mean, Platinum Dunes has disappointed me quite a few times when it comes to the horror genre, or even rebooting any of my favorite things like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I was quite bummed about how those came out too. So I don't know if Blumhouse gets a hold of this stuff, and after Halloween comes out, there might be a lot of people calling for that. That one seems ripe for it, even though I will give the 2009 Friday the 13th a little credit. I do like that movie, but I think we are hitting a point where it is going to become abundantly clear that one of the best formulas in order to continue these franchises is to retcon. And that's coming from someone who, when I first heard the retcon news, I'm like, how can you do that?
It's just an amazing amount of freedom that you have. Once, as a writer, somebody trying to create a script in a franchise that's well known, if you say, oh, you can retcon these movies, you just...
Because what always stops you is, well, you can't do that because in part 3 or part 4, and then someone somewhere said, well, what if part 3 and 4 didn't exist? And like a light went off, and it was like,
you people had to raise their hand and get fired out of a meeting before they took that guy seriously.
Right. What if we just made a sequel to the first one? Wow. Go do that.
Sounds like we got mail.
Oh, good.
It didn't scare me this time.
Oh, good. Well, it gave
Michael
me a
Myers is back
pause.
there.
Talk about Friday the 13th, and all of a sudden the studio starts breaking down in the back.
Perri would hug him.
All right, well, I might have done this myself because I asked for puns, and Jonathan Caro gave us a bunch of them. So there's 3 puns that are going to fly at y'all fast and furious, and then he gets to an actual question, and I appreciate the whole message. Jonathan Caro says, hey, you perfect strangers. JK, Collider's family matters. Okay, let's picture a different world when your favorite movie would be hilarious with a different director helming the production. So he's talking about get a totally different director to make a classic movie. How would it be different? He is postulating what would it be like if Michael Bay did Home Alone.
Oh, Lord.
So can you take a totally different director and put them into an all-time classic or beloved film and think about what the results might be in that weird universe?
I mean, I don't think that you can. I think what makes the movie itself classic is because of the contributions of the people who were in it. And the minute you introduce someone totally different, like Bay, it would change it completely.
Are you poo-pooing Michael Bay's version of Home Alone?
Well, I'm saying, even if you take Bay's best movie, which is arguably The Rock.
The Rock or 13 Hours, in my opinion.
And you had it directed by Nancy Myers. It's not The Rock anymore, right?
I kind of like what I'm hearing there, though.
It's a totally different movie.
I think most people, Perri, would say like, okay, let's take like a famed horror director. Like, give me like an Eli Roth and give them Caddyshack or something.
Well,
like that.
we're kind of seeing it with Eli Roth with taking him away from R-rated horror and then giving him a family-friendly action
movie
film.
that I liked a lot, actually. Movie that I really enjoyed.
Seems I didn't enjoy it as much, but a lot of other people out there seem to like it, and it did well, and I'm happy for them. But my mind immediately goes to a director with such a specific style that if you bathe that over anything else, and it's like what if you apply Wes Anderson style to just about anything out there, or Quentin Tarantino, and it's like I want to turn it completely on its head. It's like I want to see Quentin Tarantino direct a kids movie. What would happen if he had to direct something like G-rated?
We would ask that same question 15, 20 years ago. What would happen if Robert Rodriguez did a kids movie? It's Spy Kids.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, very true.
So stranger things have happened, and we conclude today's Twitter session with one from J. Scott St. Clair, and man, this one has me torn. I am just not sure of my answer. He says, if your favorite four-legged friend could speak, which Hollywood personality would provide their voice? Do you have pets at home?
I have a dog named Squirt.
You have a dog named Squirt.
Yes.
So for Squirt,
Yes.
For Dewey, the deputy, and for the Beagle Boston Terrier, Molly, who would provide their voice? God,
There's only one answer to that question.
For Dewey?
Yeah. You don't know the answer?
David Arquette.
Okay.
David Arquette. Even
Okay.
I, yeah,
There you go.
Even I know that.
Yeah, that was easy.
We give Squirt his own voice. Like he talks a lot in our house. He talks to my kids. He loves my wife. Follows her around everywhere. She's her favorite. He has a kind of Rodney Dangerfield voice to him. He has a little bit of Rodney, more Rodney than I probably ever anticipated. And it's odd because our dog prior to Squirt also had a voice too, and it was totally different. And now we can't remember how we did the first dog's voice, and now we only know Squirt's voice. So it's a bit of Rodney Dangerfield, I guess.
Oh, well, good. So we got
That's my
Rodney
answer.
Dangerfield. We have David Arquette, and for Molly, I can't get. She's just too precious to give to anybody. If I had to select somebody from Hollywood, I would either say Linda Carter or Gal Gadot, because Molly is Wonder Woman. She's Molly the Wonder Dog. I made a trailer that based on her being Wonder Woman. So those are my answers. Great question. Closing it up here from J. Scott St. Clair. Thank you guys for tuning into this episode of Collider Movie Talk. I want to thank my esteemed panelist. Might be back on a plane to the East Coast. Actually, we're all flying to the East Coast soon. You're going to be there for slightly longer than we are, as you currently reside there.
Yes, I
thank
do.
you so much for coming in studio.
Thanks for having me.
Love to have you back for another movie talk, for possibly a Schmoedown sometime next year.
Feeling confident.
Where can all the kids find you out there?
All right, so I'm on Cinema Blend, managing director of Cinema Blend. On Twitter, I'm at Sean_O'Connell, because again, I'm not a mixed martial artist. And I'm on Instagram, but not a lot on Instagram, more on Twitter. I host a podcast, Real Blend, with Jake Hamilton and Kevin McCarthy, two good friends of mine who are also on the junket circuit, so give us a download.
And tell Squirt and the family that we said hello. We send our regards. The director of managing directors here at Collider Video.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of managing directors here.
Can
and
I
you
just
direct all of them.
just give myself that title? Is
course.
that allowed?
Yeah, I'm
All
pretty
right.
sure you can just say you do whatever you. Did anybody know that I am actually the I'm the chief of not chief anything. I'm just the chief of Collider.
Okay.
Yeah.
If I can be the director of directors, you could be the chief of Collider.
Okay.
Deal.
No, I changed. I want to be the admiral of Collider. Perri Nemiroff. You're at Perri Nemiroff.
At P. Nemiroff.
At P. Nemiroff. I am merely Mark Ellis at Mark Ellis Live. Like I said, you can check out my pinned tweet right now. If you retweet it, you might win something really cool. And you can definitely go see me Friday, October 5th and Friday, October 26th. I'm back here in Los Angeles doing a special theater show. A lot of special guests, probably some people that you know from the studio might be popping in and trying their hand at stand-up. Get tickets right now at markellislive.com. Throw it to the wide to say goodbye. See y'all tomorrow, 4 p.m. for one last show this week. And then it's sleepy time. Have a great day, everybody. Hey everybody, Mark Ellis here. Thanks for watching this episode of Collider Movie Talk. You want to watch more? Then click up here, or you can click right here for more great content from Collider. And if you haven't subscribed to Collider Video, do so right now and share this vid with your friends. Thanks for watching.